Hello everyone, this is Debbie from Project 39 Mini Albums. A little bit ago I did a video, a project share on these recipe folios. They're really not folios, they're mini albums, and I had a lot of interest in doing a tutorial. So here is how I made them. Alright, we're starting with cutting the chipboard. I'm using black chipboard, but any color is fine. So, and I also do have a better diagram of cutting. But first I cut them down to 9.5. I'm using 2 sheets of 8 by 11 medium weight black chipboard. And out of these, the piece left over, you could cut 3 1/4, and that leaves you with a 5 1/4 piece. So that's it for that one piece of chipboard. And the other piece of chipboard again cut down to 9.5. And the reason it's so long is because there are notepads that I purchased with the collection. Stop messing around with those labels. And they're 3 inches wide. Now I've looked around and I can't find other notepads that are 3 inches wide. I have had success in cutting down like a larger like a legal pad. You just grab a real sharp X-Acto and cut it down. But anyhow, so this one's 6.5 by 9.5. And then there's one piece left over that's 2 inches. Just cut that right in half, and that'll give you 2 1-inch by 9.5 pieces. And that's all for cutting the chipboard. I am able to use my Fiscars cutter. It's not available anymore, but it cuts chipboard like butter. I just have to lean into it, put a little muscle into it. And in just a second, I'm showing you the full cutting diagram. See right here, you can see all the little pieces, and that's how you cut it. Then I take 3 8.5 by 11 pieces of red cardstock. I cut one down to 7.5 and put double-sided permanent adhesive on that 7.5 one. That's going to stay in the center. I peel off the backing of that and attach the 2 other pieces to it. You could glue if you wanted to. I think it's just a habit of mine to use the double-sided adhesive. And the reason I have the smaller piece in the center is because I want the seam to be where the spine is. I don't think it much matters, but since I'm using 8.5 by 11, I mean, if I use 12 by 12, then it would be perfectly fine. I wouldn't have had to cut it down, but I like the seam to be even, balanced, symmetrical. That's just a quirk. Really doesn't matter much when it comes to construction. But anyhow, I'm putting these 3 pieces together. I use the squares on my cutting mat to line everything up. If the double-sided adhesive shows through, it's not a big deal because you're going to cover it up and it probably will show on the inside, but I just like to do that. Alright, so I have this roll of 6-inch, yeah, I got real messy with it, 6-inch double-sided adhesive, and I've used that like crazy, but I put it on real crooked. When I'm making covers, it helps to have the cover so it doesn't bubble up. So I'm peeling off the backing of the 6.5 by 9.5 inch piece, and then I take the 1/4 inch double-sided adhesive and put it on both sides of that chipboard. And then I put the 1-inch spine piece and just sort of overlap it very slightly onto that 1/4 inch tape. I mean, maybe a 32nd of an inch. And then put more double-sided 1/4 inch adhesive, burnish, and peel it off, and then put on the right hand side that 3 1/4 inch piece, and on the left hand side the 5 1/4 inch piece. And that is how we're going to lay out the cover. Alright, I'm just using the surface to fold everything down. That one piece on the right hand side is a little too big, so I just cut a little bit off. And then I cut the corners. Just try to stay about 1/8 of an inch away from that very corner of the chipboard. Okay, all 4 corners are cut. I'm folding again, add some liquid adhesive and just use my bone folder to push everything down and burnish. I usually start from the center and burnish it real well. I think I needed to use a little more glue. You don't want to go crazy with it, but you want enough to make it stick. So again, using my bone folder, pushing it down, just working the glue in. You're going to cover this, so it's not going to go anywhere. I used to use the double-sided permanent adhesive for it, but realized, you know what, once you cover it, it's not going anywhere. So I saved that. So anyhow, I always add glue right next to the chipboard. I feel like it makes it bend a little better. Then I take my bone folder and just push in those crevices. And now I'm going to cover this spine. I have 4 1/4 by 9 3/8 inch piece, and I'm just adding some of my liquid glue and just pushing it down, using my bone folder to burnish it real well, and then go in those crevices, the gusset, because you've got that double-sided adhesive, and so this way that cardstock is going to stick in that channel. Yeah, I get a little creative with the glue sometimes, don't I? This one I decided I'm not going to, because the other one dried a little quick, I'm not going to put the glue on the sides. I call it the wings. I'm just going to do the center, and then I'm going to go back and add the glue so it's nice and wet when I'm putting it down, and it will stick. Now, you don't have to cover the, you want to cover the spine, but you don't have to cover the other parts because you're going to cover them with cardstock, but if it bothers you, then go ahead. So I'm making sure everything's straight and drawing a pencil line so I know exactly where it goes. And I'm taking some basic gray magnetic discs, and they come in a set. You get 10 sets, so there's 20 magnets. And I'm grabbing a positive and a negative, if I can get it out of the package. And I put them together. So I peel off the backing of one of them. I just try to figure out exactly where I'm going to put it. I'm using 3. I think I do in other of these mini albums, I do 2 and it works fine. But I wasn't sure how strong it was going to be, so I used 3. And I put it down and then peel off the backing of the other one and then close it. This is where it's good that I have that mark so I know exactly where it needs to be. Push down to make sure it sticks. And then I open it, and then I've got the magnets in the right place. So I'm going to add one for the top and one from the bottom, but not on camera. I use a little bit of Scotch tape just to make sure they stay down, just because it takes me some time. All right, now cut 2 pieces that are 4 3/4 by 4 7/8. Score it half, 7/8, 3 7/8, and 4 1/4. And then rotate and score at half and 7/8. And then go ahead and miter the corners. I'm mitering up to that first score line, not the second at the top. And at the bottom you're going to cross, and there will be a diagram in a second, but you're going to cross the 2 sets of score lines and try to keep it a very narrow miter, not a real big exaggerated one. So now you'll see the picture and shows you exactly how I cut that. So again, not a huge miter. Okay. All right, fold and burnish on the score lines. Now we're just going to attach it at the bottom. Don't rush ahead and glue it all down. Just put it down at the bottom. I mean, as a matter of fact, you could wait till right before you put on the decorative paper, but I have it cut. I want to put it in place so it doesn't get lost or mangled. So I add a little bit of adhesive. There we go. And just put it right at the bottom. That first 1/2 inch tab is going to meet up to the very bottom of the mini album, and same here. Now you want to make sure that when you open the book you'll still have room, so just test it before you burnish it, and then you're good. All right, we got that done. Now let's move on to the next part. So you're going to need 9, you may need more, 7 1/4 by 4 1/2. These are pockets to put the recipe cards in. And you may need more because you may not space them correctly. Oh, by the way, put the long side at the top, score it 1/2 inch, rotate, and score it 1/2 inch, rotate, and score 1/2 inch. So you've scored on 2 short sides and 1 long side. Go ahead and do that to 9 to start, and then miter the corners and fold and burnish. We're going to add glue to the very bottom tab. I can go faster than that. I really should just speed this up. But anyhow, add glue to the bottom tab, and you're going to put it on, of course, in the center, making sure it's centered. You're going to have about 1/8 of an inch on both sides. Make sure the bottom one is perfect because everything's going to line up with that. And line it up to the bottom. I'm making sure I'm not going over. Sometimes I do. So I want to make sure it's equal to the bottom, and then burnish. And then for the next one, you can line it up to the bottom of the tab that's glued down, that's already on the mini album. Or if you want just to have 9 pockets, go up about maybe 1/8 of an inch, maybe not quite. The spacing is entirely up to you. I guess it depends on how many recipe cards you have. Okay, now I'm going to go faster. I am just lining this up with the one in front of it and just adding it. I'm just gluing the bottom at this point. I'm going to go back in and glue the sides, but I'm just going to glue the bottom to get them all on. So that was 9, and then I realized, okay, I probably need more. Let's add some more glue. And glue, I think I put 3 on. I think I have 12. I don't know for sure. I didn't count it when I was done. I just added it till it went to the top of the page. Or not the very top. There's still maybe 5/8 of an inch once I finish putting these on. You'll see in just a second. All right, I think I have room for one more after that. Burnish on the outside, and then open it up and burnish on the inside. Okay. That might be it. All right, now I'm going to show you the cutting guide of the rest of the paper. So I'm not going to repeat it. You can stop just to make sure you've got it. And obviously use whatever paper you have available. But that is how I decorated my mini album. I used the What's Cooking collection from Photo Play. I also happen to have the recipe card, so it worked perfect for me. Thought it was bright and colorful. I like this. So anyhow, that is how I cut all of the decorative paper. And now I am going to adhere it. I did do a top and bottom of the front part. Now, if you want to, you could just use one piece, just attach it together. I just wanted something a little different, and wasn't sure which one I was going to do on the back, but I did like that red check. And I have this green muted pattern. It's fruits and vegetables. I wasn't sure if I was going to do the green because I didn't want it to look too Christmassy, but with everything else I don't think it does. So there's the top of the right hand side. And so now I'm going to add the paper to the sides, and then I'm going to put the pockets on. I love this rooster paper, it's very cool. Oh, I have the little green trim to go on the spine pieces. Yeah, I wasn't sure which side I was going to use of this paper, but I love that pattern with the flowers on it. I thought it was very pretty. So I cut these teeny strips to go on the pockets that hold the list pads. The measurements were in there, and you don't have to necessarily do this. So those are obviously 3x4 journaling cards that are cut down, and they fit nicely on that pocket. I've done other these mini albums, and I just use regular decorative paper and put stickers on it. All right, make sure you take your bone folder and burnish inside to make sure that pocket is adhered real well. Make sure it's at a 45-degree angle as well. And now I've got these 1-inch pieces that I'm going to put down after I glue the pockets down. So I put the pocket down and then I glue that 1-inch piece. You could have a bigger piece, but why waste the paper? Nobody sees it. And also you don't have to put anything on the pockets, because when you put the recipe cards, you can't see, but of course you will take the recipe cards out, and it looks real pretty with that pattern paper. So I'm just getting this in. I didn't have any particular order that I put these in. I glued them down, leaving just about 1/16 of an inch of the red cardstock on top, showing on each one. There's one more. Put this down. Oops, missed one. Let's do that. See, doesn't it look pretty? Very nice and orderly. I like that. All right, these are little strips. They are 1-inch by 4-inch to hold the list pads in place. I scored on each of those sides, short sides, by 1/2 inch, and then I mitered, and then I put them sort of inside the list pad. Turn the list pad upside down or inside out or backwards, and then put it in the pocket and push down where I had put the glue in. It just keeps those list pads from not flopping from side to side. It's not necessary, but I liked it. There, see, it just helps that list pad stay where it is. Now I'm opening the pack of the recipe cards. Again, these are 4 inches by 6 inches. So I think you could use index cards. I don't know what size index cards are these days. Put them in. I add some stickers to the front. I put one in between where those two papers meet. I put recipes on the cover. I'm fussy cutting out this sticker because I want to put it on top of the center, and it was sort of getting lost, so I needed the red border. Add that. I like that. I think it's pretty. And there's the back. Let's see what I can find for the back. I add some red cardstock for this. I don't know if that's supposed to be a tag or what, but I just cut around it and add it to the back, right in the center. Usually put it on the bottom, but right in the center. And there we go. There is the recipe album using Photoplay's What's Cooking. And I think this one came out really good. I liked how you've got room for 10, 12 recipes. And it just looks fabulous. So I hope you enjoyed this real quick tutorial. Again, I made it in a couple of different styles. I'll list that in my description box, so you can go check out the other ones using Doodlebugs paper. And thanks for joining along. Hope you enjoyed it, and have a fabulous day.